Be live here. Welcome back, everybody. Been a long time. Hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. And glad to come out here on a live show this week. Finally, get back, update you on some crazy stuff that's been going on around here at the shop. And also, it's going to be wonderful to catch up with my friend Zez over the pond there, I guess we could say, and see how you are doing. It's been a long time. See, we haven't even spoken, so...
It has been a long time, my friend. We've been busy. It's summer. We've all had stuff going on, so we haven't had a chance, unfortunately, to be able to catch up. So, yeah, I was like, Steve, let's do it. We got to talk. We got to do it. We got to find something to do. So,
yeah. So, first off, if you're here today, please do us a favor and hit the like button. It's been like a month since I've done a live stream, so I'm sure the algorithm's not going to kick out a notification as much as it would have a couple of weeks ago when I was doing this on the regular. So hopefully we get back into some normal good to see Zero Sleep, Chris Broom, and Brandon all here early in the chat. Good to see you all here. So I wanted to man, it's been, I was telling Lewis just barely, we got on like 5 minutes ago. Things have been crazy here. So as things kind of get wild and things get rolling, I can give you guys a crazy little story whenever we're ready. And it's just like a crazy shop story.
We're talking about this monitor, right? This thing you were posting about today. Is that the one?
No, I want to say that's not even the craziest thing. I want to talk about this explosion, this sewer explosion that happened.
Sewer explosion
into my home. Yes.
I'm hoping that's a metaphor, but I'm willing to bet it's not a metaphor.
Well, if it's a metaphor for shit backflowing into your crawl space under your home, then that's a good metaphor.
Okay, it's the real thing. There's Thomas 5K. He's in the chat. He's come from Osaka.
Wow.
Hell yeah, dude.
Other side there.
Nice one, dude. Yeah, hit us up. You're in Osaka. Are you hitting up any hard offs? Hitting up any of the good gear there? Tell us all about that.
Yeah, drop out some Edward. Yeah, so, man, yeah. So it's been a while. Kind of one of the things, like I said, that I hadn't been able to get on the live streams or anything was I had a bunch of infrastructure issues. We'll call it that. We'll say that nicely. And it all started, well, we've been going through like a heat wave here. Like a ridiculous heat wave in the United States. And so one day I'm walking little Cole. You know Cole. Everybody knows Cole. Yeah. Hey, Pio.
Puppy Cole.
Ronnie, what's up? Smasher Josh. So I was walking Cole, and like I said, this was like the beginning of the heat wave, and it's been literally, I want to say 3 weeks since this happened. I'm walking outside, and I noticed this puddle in the property. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Why is there it's a heat wave. It's like everything else is dry. It's starting to smell funny. And I'm like, oh, great. So my son's in there taking a shower at the same time, luckily. And I noticed water's like coming up out of the ground, bubbling. And this is okay. So I'm starting to freak out. I'm thinking, man, the water coming into my house is busted in the yard, and water's just pouring in the yard. That's my first thought. And so then the shower stops, and I realize the water stops coming out, and it goes down just a tiny bit. And I'm like, well, wait a second. That means the water coming out of the house has a problem, not going in. And then I started, because I looked at my water bill, and I was like, I don't have any crazy spikes in usage. So I I go outside, and I start looking around, and I'm like, man, this is where the water's coming out of the house again. So this is a sewer issue. And I start to think, okay, this is not good. So I called my dad, who lives down the street, and I'm like, hey, you mind coming over here a minute? It's like, okay, sure. So he hops on over, comes over, and we start looking around. In the meantime, I call a plumber, and I'm like, can you come over here and check this thing out? I don't really know what's going on. It's blocked up somewhere. And so he's like, sure, we can come over in about 2 hours. So I'm like, okay, great. So while I'm waiting, I start digging a hole right where I saw that water spurting.
Why are you digging a hole where you saw shit hole, dude?
Because I was like, well, that's got to be where the problem is, right? If I'm lucky, I'll find the problem down there. And I'm just like, I got to do something. So I start digging this hole in the yard. I have some photographs here. I'll try to find out if I can pull them up over Lewis's face.
Photographing the shit heist here.
So
I don't know if I see pool of crap in my yard, I ain't digging around there. But okay, Stevie's got problems to solve.
It doesn't look like crap though. It looks like clean water because it's literally being filtered through. It's like water that's been filtered through. The pipe is literally 3 feet under the ground, so it's being filtered through, and it's over time just pushing up water. That's sewer water that looks clear because it's gone through so much dirt filter, but it just. You know it's not good because it smells like sulfur dioxide or whatever. So I start digging this hole. My dad comes over and oh yeah. So my dad comes over. Let's see if I do have some pictures here. God, you're going to throw up. All right. So basically, what had happened is I went through. I actually have video clips of stuff, and I don't even know from the day it happened. So, I dig this hole up, and it's like I get down a couple feet, and it just fills with water. It's just like full of water. So I'm like, well, I can't really see. My dad comes over, and they're like, well, there's a clean out thing in the crawl space under the house. Like my dad's like, I'll go under there and open that thing up and make sure that your line's not like clogged. So he's under there in my crawl space, which let me pull this video up. This will show.
All right, let me show you what was going on down here. So this is the main line.
Say hello to everyone in the chat here. Yeah. Stefan, good to see you, mate. Final boss. He's hanging out there. Thomas 5K, you are looking to buy still on the search. And as I had a really great discussion, I had a podcast some time ago about red PVMs and CRTs in Japan. Understand not so much of a culture there, but my friend Thomas 5K. If you look on my channel, I've got a store tour of a hard off in Osaka. It's like an hour outside. It's an hour to the east. There's like a couple out there on the not too far off the train line, and it's the amazing Famicom disk system store. I've got a video on it on my channel, and at that store they also had several CRTs as well for not too reasonable prices. So I guess the only issue is you'd have to haul it from like an hour outside of Osaka if you can't find anything else. So you're in the right place for it there. So Steve, you had that picture, my friend.
Yeah. Definitely cool stuff. I always love those tours over there because I don't get to see that stuff. It's fun to watch them, and any place that sells CRTs is awesome. So here, this is the pipe, all right? This is the pipe that literally comes out. So every bit, this is 4 inches in diameter or inside, and every bit of shit, water, and everything comes down this pipe. It goes out through this pipe into that yard, into the into the yard, into the sewer line, which I'll show you something. But what happened was that back part right there where my dad gets under there with a wrench and pulls that off, dude. I'm under there and I'm like, I'm like, Lewis, I was like, wait a second, wait. And he just pulls it off, and dude, fucking 20 seconds of just straight shit and water just starts blowing back into that crawl space. And we're just standing there. I'm like, my God, oh no. It's just like every bit of shit. So I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy crap. It all came out and finally stopped. And so my basement was, or my crawl space is full of shit. The house is full of shit. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever had happen. And so they all get out, obviously. And so I'm like, all right, whatever happens, I close that valve thing back off the sewer. And then I go in and I just put hoses under there and blast all that water and everything down to this sump container thing that pumps this crap out. and it just did. So I got it all cleaned out. I mean, it took like a day and a half of just water running under there and pumping, and it just finally got cleaned out. So I got all that cleaned out, and I was pretty much freaking out, and I was like, well, something's gone on. The back pressure comes up, so we kept investigating, and I was like, this is a nightmare, right? I was like, I call, the plumber finally gets out there, and he's like, you know, he immediately tells me it's going to be like $4,000 to basically dig the whole pipe out and install a new pipe, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
this
like,
is the pipe in the yard, right?
Yeah, that where that pipe leads out to in the yard. And so let me see what else I could show you here. I could show you, let me pull up some other video. Like that's the hole I was telling you I dug up, right?
So you dug that part. Okay.
I dug that all up, and that's the water I hit right there. Like, that's the sewer water coming out of the pipe where it's like been just
and it's smelling like sulfur, right?
Oh yeah.
How are you even
awful.
putting up with the smell? Dang.
I don't know. I didn't really think about it. I was trying not to think about it. So let's see what else happened. So eventually, let's go on to this clip. So I kept digging, and I eventually dug a trench so the water could come out, and dug down more and more and more into this pit, and I finally hit plastic. And that's the hole right there. Look at all those flies.
Oh, that's disgusting. Fucking flies around Steve's poop. Ah, God dang.
So what the flies were hiding ultimately was this. This is the pipe. Oh my gosh. Let's see if we get the good angle right there. So this is the pipe right here. I finally dug down. There's the pipe, and there's the split in it. And what that's extruded through it is a giant coax cable from the cable company. That was there like at some point, who the hell knows when. Like, could have been 20 years, could have been 10 years. They drilled a hole straight through it. So this also helped me though, because I went down, and there's another little pipe in the yard, way back in the yard, that's to the sewer. And so I go down there, and my dad's pulling the damn thing off the top of that. And I'm like, whoa, don't do any more. No more pulling off. And so he just like, well, we got to see. He pops it just a little bit, and more crap starts just like eking out just through the leak. And he's like, oh, I say, no more. So we call the sewer department, and I'm like reporting an emergency. I'm like, emergency on the emergency number. And this guy's calling, and he's like, hello, sir, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I think the sewer is backing up into my yard. It's backed up into my house. And I just want to see if somebody come out here and check and make sure my sewer line is clear from my access point to the road, to the sewer, like the part that actually goes out to them. And say, yes, sir, we'll call you right back. So I'm sitting there like freaking out, and it's been like 15 minutes later with my dad, and I'm like, they're not calling me back. They're not, I don't know why they didn't just call. And then all of a sudden I look up, and there's 3 trucks show up, and a bunch of guys come out, and then they start digging in the sewer eventually. So they dig into their sewer, and they realize that what ultimately happened was they had, I don't know if I have any, let me see if I have any stuff from that, but, oh, here's the point. So this is the point, right? So they come over, let me show you. They come over to the point where in the yard, there's that other access point right here.
Okay, yeah.
And they come and they open that up, and all that stuff on the ground right there is all the shit that comes flying out of that pipe. And so they come over, and they clear this line, and they figure that there's a blockage somewhere between this and the actual sewer manhole down to 300 feet from this. So this goes 300, almost 90 meters down to the street through my neighbor's yard. The pipe from mine to then, and it's cast iron from the 1970s. So they came, and let me show this. They came with this. They brought the camera crew out. And they brought this camera, and they stuck this camera through the sewer there. And after doing that, they realized that there was like a blockage at their end, like way down at the end. And so what had happened is over a month, that sewer line had collapsed where it was going into the sewer pipe, and then it built up with my shit for 300 feet through my neighbor's yard. Then my yard, it goes another 150 feet, and it blew up into my house. So that was what I had to deal with, all of that. And so their line was messed up. My line was messed up at that spot. What I wound up doing is the guys said that if I cleared out that pipe where I had the cable go through, they're like, look, if you just get that pipe, if that's the only problem you've got, then the rest of your pipe doesn't need to be changed. You just can repair that one section and it'll be much easier. So that's what I was about to show you. They actually came over and they were nice enough to stick the camera in the pipe after I had to get all the shit out of the way. But they did this. They stuck this camera in the pipe in my yard. And like this guy here, this old guy here, dude, he worked for my great-grandfather, and he knew about the Nutter, like, masons, like you talked about, the guy in the restaurant. He knew this guy too. He knew my great-grandfather, and he worked for him his first job out of college, and he's like the head of the sewer department. So he came over and brought this camera crew over, and they scoped with its camera. They scoped my entire sewer line right here, and traced it out with a sonar, and like spray painted the line and gave me the whole thing and made sure there was not another problem in it. So that's what they're doing all here, like cameraed the whole thing, right? He went and showed the whole line.
So he's mapping out where the pipe goes. Is that what he's doing there?
Because none of that's all not marked through my yard. And so what happened eventually, at some point, some doofus from the cable company came through, and that's what he did. He drilled that cable, and there it is. I cut it out, right? So I cut out.
Hold on a second. Yeah, slow it down. And I don't understand this cable pipe, how this happened in the first place.
So somebody was coming through that section of the yard, and they didn't know this pipe was here, and they literally shoved it down in there. And
what do you mean shoved it?
Like they drill, and then they start drilling through your yard to put cables for your internet or cable TV. They put their lines this way, and when they did, one of the lines went straight through this sewer pipe, and they just pushed it through, and it stopped. And so they stopped going with it, and they routed a second line and went over the sewer pipe the next time. They just didn't tell anybody what they did.
Yeah, how does it? I still don't quite get it. So we want to put cable through a yard, so it's got to come from what, a front, some neighbor or some other place.
There's a panel on a light pole out in the front at the street. Then it goes underground. They go underground from there, and then they start digging and trenching and shoving these cables through the ground and digging sideways.
How does it go? Okay, I appreciate I can drill downwards, but how do you then go that way? I don't understand how.
They go down and they'll dig just a small portion, and they stick a drill sideways to try to grow. It's like a weird boring thing they were doing, because that's what happened both times. They shoved the line through through the cable, and that's what caused the collapse down the street. Was a different cable, it was the fiber internet came through, did the same thing, drilled sideways, hit the pipe, and they knock it. Because that's what they do. Instead of digging a trench the whole time, now you would not dig a whole trench. They send these things sideways through the yard, and they dig a trench about every 15, 20 feet, or every 12 meters or something. They dig a trench, they dig a small hole, and then they go sideways. Yes.
Right. And they hit the pipe. They caused the hole, like they drilled into the pipe at one stage.
And and they didn't know. They either knew and just didn't tell them, and just did a second line and said, "Forget it."
So if they had
not done that, I would have had more shit blown into my house probably, because what was happening was a lot of that shit was leaking out through that hole. So the hole kind of let a lot of the pressure go out, and let me see that there was a problem in the first place, or it would all just backflow into the house. I wouldn't have known.
Okay, I think I'm getting with this. So this hole has been there for a while.
That little hole that you saw, that when I originally found it had been there a while. So I dug it all out. There I am, so happy digging it out. And I had to actually cut the pipe all the way back here and all the way up here to put in a proper patch. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's a clip of my dad putting the proper. So we had to cut. I had to get down there with I had to dig all this trench out bigger, which that's way down. Cut back here where he is. I cut with a sawzall, and then I cut up here where you can't see. We've already closed it off, and then it just put the pipe crap on there. And let's see. Yeah, there it is again, so you can see it. Just so make it a proper like seal. So that's what it looked like when it was done. And you see, there's the second cable that they put through my yard that I had to avoid when I was digging all this out because I know it would have knocked out my internet.
Right.
So
they made this hole some time ago, and was it that because when the pipe wasn't blocked,
the sewer.
When the pipe wasn't blocked, the sewage could just kind of flow through it, so it didn't really go out the hole so much, so you never noticed it. But it wasn't until there was a blockage that they put enough pressure that it actually started to come out of this small hole.
Right.
Okay.
So the pressure built up, and instead of like one day somebody flushing the toilet and the toilet's like exploding in the house with shit. Instead, that pressure would build up and go seep through this hole. It would just press it, and it was crazy. The way the guys drilled it, they hit that pipe right in the center of it, and it split the pipe in half. Like, there was only like this much section of the pipe that was still attached. That's why I had to cut the whole thing off. And so the good news is I got all that fixed. I didn't have to spend any money, so I didn't have to spend the $4,000 to get the whole thing replaced. But I did get like this crazy sewer lesson that I never thought I'd have to learn.
Thanks for the local sewer guys who were able to show
they
you.
came through and did all that stuff. That was awesome. They were great. They cleared the line. They had a contractor out here last week fixing. That was another thing. They had them. Then the internet people came out here and tried to fix all their shit. And so that's what's been going on. Like the last 2 weeks, I've been waiting for these guys. Like they had to come back through here and reroute lines all around the property for infrastructure for both the sewer and the internet, because like also they found that a bunch of the sewer lines run to all these houses aren't on any modern GPS updated map they use now. Like, so there's no record of them on their side except in old drawings that you have to go like find in the basement of the local courthouse. So they had to come out here with this equipment again and start scanning through everybody else's sewer lines. So that's what's been going on here the first month. A 20-minute poop story to start the stream off.
Good. Nice. Gets everyone into it while people were just joining as soon as they joined. That's quite a homeowner as well. You know, these adventures that you're having with this new apartment. That's quite a homeowner's adventure.
Yep. So.
God damn. So you learn how to repair a pipe. So what, you got to cut the pipe and put a bit of pipe in the middle, and then a bit kind of a clampy thing goes around the join, and then you watertight the join.
Yeah. Well, it's like, So I had that little temporary. So what happened was I found it, and then I was like, my dad's like, I gotta go. I'll help you. I'll go to the store and get this stuff to patch it. And I'm like, well, I kept telling him, I was like, we can't just like leave the sewer open. Like once I had it exposed, and I was like, I cut it open for them to stick the camera through. And I was like, I can't just like if it's got a straight cut off. And I'm like, if you flush the toilet in the house, it's just coming straight to that hole. Right. Or you turn the shower on. Anything, it's coming straight to that hole and it's going to hit it. So I'm like, we got to get a temporary sleeve on here. So I had to put the temporary sleeve on there, but that wasn't good enough because the hole was too long. And so then we had to go get a bigger piece, and the shortest piece we could fit was that 3-foot section. So we had to cut out longer and splice that in properly, like a proper plumbing repair. Yeah. And so that all happened. And the funny thing was that had, like you said, had been happening so much that the whole area stunk like shit for 2 weeks, and I had to just let it dry out because it was literally it was like the Monty Python set mud like that they're walking through, and it's like that's all just that's what the garbage is from like the Middle Ages. You see, like they're walking through the courtyard in London, and it's like because it's just saturated sewer land. Thankfully it had been dry, so I came back. I let it sit for a whole week in the sun, They get baked out and then reburied the pipes, so now it's all good to go, and that's it.
All right, Steve. We got to find a new story. Okay,
Let's go.
20 minutes of poop. Okay, we got.
I know.
We got to move on. We got this one. I got one. Hey, I got one. I bought a new CRT this week. I haven't got it yet, but maybe I got the pictures, so maybe I can share. Let's see. Maybe I can share the screen. I don't know if it works like that. Does it work like that? Share my screen.
Go for it.
And let me see here. It's going to share my screen. Do you see the Sony Trinitron televisor? Do you see this, Steve?
Let's see. No, I don't see it. Hang on.
That doesn't work like
Oh, there it is. Okay, now it's come up.
Okay, we've got it
There we
there.
go.
So I bought this. I found this week.
Okay.
And this is a 14-inch. So let's go. Actually, we've got the sticker on the back. Yeah, it's a 14. It's a 14-inch.
Ooh.
Now, don't you have this one in white, Steve?
I don't. What does that say?
KV14T1R.
What the heck is that other input?
That's SCART down the back. Yeah.
I see the SCART. What the heck is that other input? It's like
What, the round one?
Yeah, is that like weird RF? Looks
Yeah,
like
that's RF, bro.
That looks like a BNC style RF. That doesn't look
What
like
are your-
a coaxial.
What are your... Oh, okay. Your RF's like a coax. Okay, that's
Yeah.
like aerial. I don't know if that's a European thing or something like
Huh.
that, but in Australia, we had the same kind of RF cable connector there.
Let me see if I
Wow.
can.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit and let people see more of this.
So that's...
So that's the one you're getting. No, I have I don't know. It's
What's that white one you've got? Don't you
I
have a
don't
white
have
one?
I don't have that one anymore. I sold it.
Oh, okay. It's very similar to that, I feel. Wasn't
I
it the
think
same?
it was a TR28 though. It was called TR28. So it's a little, I mean, same size, but that looks different. What is that, like a faux wood for the button panel, or is it just a different shade of black?
I think it's a different shade of black. I think it's the... What can we flick through? No, we can't. I'm pretty sure it's not. View original image.
I don't know. It looks a little different, like it's faux wood. That would be cool.
I think it's the light, or maybe it's reflecting off the light of this cheap post-Soviet table here. So yeah, this is all I've got so far.
Yeah.
That's right. They said, they've got it at their countryside place. When someone buys it from the auction, they're going to bring it to Tallinn in some days. So I said, okay. So I'm still waiting for it to come to Tallinn. So I paid 45 euros for this. So still 45 bucks. All right, the same thing. So what's your? Let's presume it doesn't work too bad. What's your thought about 45 bucks for this TV, Steve?
That's good. Does it include? Do you know if it'd be a bonus if it includes a remote? 45 bucks.
Excellent
is good.
point. I don't know if it has the remote, but I'm fairly sure. Like, I saw the remote in the manual, and it seemed like one that I already have, like the same shape at least.
Yeah, those are usually easier to find. Those Sonys are pretty universal for that time period, so it's not a problem so much. But I think that's cool. I wish I had even if it doesn't, for some reason, have that's a cool label. Even if it doesn't have certain things populated in the SCART, you'd figure you could add it, probably.
Like 100% sure that's got RGB. 100. I'll stake my next 45 bucks that is. They don't do
T1R. Let me see.
Yeah, T1R. I think I saw that manual already somewhere, but we don't kind of do so much the SCART with just composite thing in Europe. Like, I don't know if I've really almost ever found one that's like that. 100% sure that's RGB already.
Yeah.
So it's nice. And as I feel there's also a lot of help me out here, Steve. So this 50 hertz, 60 hertz, and we talk all about now. We usually, and I think what we often forget discussing the 50 hertz, 60 hertz is there's power 50 hertz, 60 hertz, which is you guys are 60, we're 50 in Europe, and that's a power thing. And then there's screen refresh, and that can be different, right? And I have not found a TV, at least here, that can't do both. what's your like? I mean, the
Can't
power.
do both
It says
as far
50,
as what? The
it
power?
says. Well, it says. No, in terms of screen refresh.
Here's the problem. I don't actually have anything that I can use for PAL to test, like the signal.
What about a Mister?
Yeah, I don't even have, like, all I've got is my Mr. Cade.
So you haven't got that plugged in?
No, I mean, it's in the Mr. Cade. I don't have it, like,
okay.
So I don't use it. That's why I've been thinking about getting another Mr. just for testing video signals, but I haven't done that yet.
Sure. Maybe there's one of those new
That's what I was
clone
waiting.
Misters that are coming out.
Yeah, I was waiting for one of those to try that for this, like, just to have pretty much the
Let's go back to me.
I want it to have let's see.
Right, because you would just need the base stuff. You don't need the SD RAM or any of that extra
what
crap.
I want is to basically be able to run the test pattern test suites of everything at different, like, it'd be good to be able to pull it up as a PAL versus a because, like, I don't know, there's some that I don't like that maybe could take it, but they might not show it up in color depending too, right? Because
yeah, the color thing becomes
the color thing, and depending on how the TV can receive the color, you might get a black and white signal.
So okay, so then let's refine it once again. So there's 5060 power, and okay, 100% America is power that. And when that set that I just showed you, when it said 50, that meant power. That doesn't mean that it can't do 50 or 60 hertz.
Yeah,
if
every time it's generally saying on the back label, it's generally referring to the power that you're, like, the actual wall power.
Right, wall power. Now, let's break down what PAL is. PAL is, or NTSC, they're a color encoding standard that are usually done at a refresh rate. So NTSC is a particular color coding standard that is usually done at 60 hertz. PAL is a color encoding standard that is usually done at 50 hertz. So you could be taking the 50 hertz part just fine, but your set might not be able to decode the PAL part of the color.
Or vice versa, because that was a big difference too between the two color and NTSC and PAL is one of them was sending out a better, more tuned, and I believe it was PAL was sending out the clearer, more tuned image that from the original source, but the NTSC was a lot more dependent on the actual color interpretation of the set, and that's why a bunch of our sets always had color adjustment knobs on the front, because you get the signal in and then you'd actually need to adjust the TV to make the TV show the colors the way it was that you preferred, basically with your eyes, because you could have been receiving the signal right, it just the color was off at the time or something. But
now Smasher John in the chat makes a great point, which again, we have to be very precise about each thing. So PAL CRTs can do, PAL European, let's say, CRTs can do 60 hertz. They can display 60 frames a second. Yes, that is correct. Now, the thing that, then again, I forgot. Now, the reason that I always think, oh, I'm doing 60 hertz and it's just fine in color is because the set is bringing RGB. And when it's RGB, there's no PAL or NTSC to worry about. So if it's doing American core, a US core, a US game, US core, I'm outputting RGB from the Mister 60 hertz, no problem on my European set. So that's probably why I've almost never come across that. The only time actually the color encoding problems I come across is I'm playing VHS tapes and I've got some issues with my BVM. I think my VHS player isn't decoding properly. So sometimes I'm watching Star Wars in black and white.
And this is again why maybe like some of these cards specifically for BVMs, for example, you have to have certain ones to do PAL and certain ones to do NTSC, because that's an example where you can send the signal in, it just can't actually decode the color properly because it's not set up for one color versus the other. So, and again, when you're using RGB, you aren't you're sending the raw color. So if you're sending PAL signal or NTSC signal on the refresh rate, like you said, of 50 or 60 hertz, but you're just sending it through RGB, there is no color, there is no PAL, there is no NTSC color, because that's actually just a thing kind of on that composite and S video, and actually probably component video too.
Right, and that's a good point, that while we love our professional monitors, one of the small drawbacks is, yeah, as you say, the cards are usually PAL or NTSC only, or like often they can be both, but there's often they can be one or the other. It's quite common. And for sure, my composite input on my BVM is PAL only. So if I send a straight up NTSC composite signal into my BVM, I'm watching Star Wars in black and white.
Yeah.
So I gotta do some solutions about that. Maybe I think. Oh yes, I have a DVD VHS combo, so I could watch the DVD, and the DVD side will output in RGB. So I've got that unit. It's a VHS, a DVD combo. It has RGB SCART output and composite output. Now does the VHS composite come out over SCART? I forget, but. However, yes, so there are some ways to do this. So we got Smasher John in the chat. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say there are a lot of PVMs that will do PAL and NTSC, no problem. Yep. So you don't have to have like any extra card for those ones. It's just for some reason the more precise
the BVMs.
Yeah. Because I think the reason for that is you want to be able to, the BVM's meant to be played back from like the generated broadcast, so you don't want something that basically can accept a wide, you want it to just accept, for example, PAL, because you want to see how that PAL signal is being broadcast. You don't want to set it up a multi-machine that can accept both, because most of the TVs probably can't accept both, and this thing, a PVM could accept both, so it might have no problem showing you color if there's a problem with your broadcast signal. So that's what
absolutely.
I think.
I mean, this set that you can see right here came from an Estonian TV station.
Right.
So they have no thought or worry about PAL. It was C-Canned, and we said, goodbye, Soviet Union. We switched over to lovely Western. We love you. And then we all switched over to PAL. And so there would be no need for that. Smasher John's talking about some stuff here. Oh, and the differing standards of NTSC, which I know exist, but I've never really come across before. Smasher John, yes, can you get S-video out via a SCART cable? Yes, I believe there are pins to do that, but then you've either got to extract it. I actually don't have any S-video here. I've got an 8-inch. I've got those 8 inches that have the S-video input, but they're in storage. I don't have anything here actually to play S-video with right now.
Yeah, but, well, that's like, the signal stuff is always interesting, because I don't know that, it's hard for me to have a good testing for that. And I had a good example of like a CRT I worked on before, the one that I've been banging my head against the wall with today. It's the one from the thumbnail of the broadcast. It's like, I'll show you it. It's newer. It's newer one I had never worked on before. It is a Commodore. Let's pull the file up for it, and just for a minute. And
sorry.
Go ahead, but go finish what you're saying.
Sorry, I'm just replying to Smasher John while he's saying so. It is possible to, on SCART is just a plug. And usually we're sending RGBS over SCART. There are pins for the red, the green, the blue, and the sync. Now, there are also allocated pins for composite. Usually sync, what you can do is just send composite over the sync line. And that's a way that you can send composite over SCART. And a lot of TVs, consumer sets are set up for that as well, and will accept that. Now, Smasher John is saying actually as well, and he's correct, that there are actually pins where you can send S-video, YC, over SCART as well. And it's basically just the two signals, the Luma and the Chroma, go over 2 pins of the RGB. Now, the device that is receiving that has to accept YC over SCART. And to answer Smasher John's question, I haven't seen that as being very common here in Europe. Our SCART sets don't by default accept S-Video over SCART. They'll do RGBS. They'll pretty much always also do composite, but I've not seen that. Now, if someone else has got some other experiences, please do, because I'm not sure I've extensively tested that. Yes, sir.
I think there's going to be some times where you'll probably, who knows, something probably somewhere. TVs are so crazy with analog video, you never know. Something might have just accidentally been set up and works with a lot of things and then other ones don't have the same compatibility sometimes. You might accidentally get one that does more formats than it even thinks it can do or is written, documented to do. So the one this Commodore one, it's a 1084S, and
it's a classic.
Yeah, so it's an early 90s CRT here. I'm going to bring the file over and
PO17 S-Video, super uncommon in Europe. Also, truth be told, component video, super uncommon. I almost never, like, if it's some weird American import, if I see a TV with composite, maybe there's a later model DVD player that's just got everything because they had everything by that stage. But sort of anything from reasonably back in the golden age doesn't have, I would say, I see more S-Video than, so rarely see component, maybe a couple of S-Videos, but really that's it. And that is a beautiful monitor that looks very much like something I would have had with my Amiga when I was growing up. Tell us about that, Steve.
Yes, this thing is pretty slick. So it's the guy brought it here. It had the original box for it still, and it was in super nice physical condition overall. Hey, Brian, and
that's Brian. Yeah, there you go, buddy.
Let's see, Rodrigo from Argentina. Welcome. So this is the monitor. It came in. Now the problem originally was that it wouldn't power on this button right here had broken. So you push it and it wouldn't stay, it wouldn't switch. It would just immediately power on and then off because you have to keep the switch wouldn't mechanically engage. So that was the repair that had to be done, and I think I should show how to do that. I just took a lot of pictures of it to make sure I'd get all the button.
You repaired that rear button.
Yeah, so I had to take the whole thing apart. Now, thankfully, this was pretty easy to get in and work on. It didn't have any tricky bolts or plastic that was tough to work with, and it was all this board, one board, and then the neck board. So this is the problem. This switch, you try to push it in, and it wouldn't stay pushed in, so it was broken. So I had a cap kit, went ahead and decapped everything. There's pictures of that. So I've got both cleaning, cap kit, decap. Let me show you how I fixed that switch, though. There's the new caps.
In the chat, Edward, you know what, Edward, in the chat, now I think about it, where I have seen S-Video in Europe is the big Trinitrons, the over 20, the 29s, and the 27s and the 29s. They typically have a third input, which is S-Video. But it's never only S-Video, or it's never composite and S-Video. It's always the fourth input or something like that on a super high-end TV. So you got a little bodging, do I see there, Steve, between those two? So here's an interesting thing. These old, CRTs have a lot of these just push buttons that are this mechanical button, and it's very common for them to just break. And it's very hard also to find a replacement. Generally, it's not like you're going to find new old stock of this switch very often. So simply by going in here, this switch, all it does is when it's closed and it's meant to be on, it just closes the gate right here on these 2 points, and then that just sends through the power right in the monitor. So all you have to do in this case is bridge that, and then does that mean it's always on?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Then you have to, and this is what I discussed with the customer. I said, once it's, oh, there we go. I said, once it's going, once you get it going, you send power in, you have to keep power going to it. You turn it on and off using a surge protector, which won't hurt it.
Okay.
But that's the only way you really get around that is doing that. See, there's the button now. It looks fine. It's always on. It had some good, the cool thing is it has this little VGA input that you could just feed SCART right into it. And then it accepts.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. This is a 240p and 488. Is it doing 480p?
It's doing. I didn't even have that set up. And I don't know if it does that. No,
I have a suspicion it doesn't,
because it's quite
remembering
old.
My Amiga monitor from when I was growing up. I had a very similar Commodore monitor, and it had a SCART input, and we went from the Amiga to the monitor with SCART, and there are other, and I saw there in the back you had the composite inputs and you had that VGA style connector, but as you said, it's just routing a RGBS signal in on that, right? Like a Mr. sends RGBS out of that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you could hook a Mr. right into this, I'm sure. And then it does the split Chroma and Luma for...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So you can use that for, which is funny, they use composite video and Luma down here.
Reusing. Well, it makes sense. Okay,
right,
reuse the
for
same
sync.
plug.
And so and then Chroma's split out. So you can use those for S-Video down there. And there's the selection switches. And it has basically all the horizontal and vertical deflection stuff you need on the back there. Stereo audio on it. This one, again, is from 92.
I mean, we certainly missed out on a bunch of stuff in Europe and definitely in Australia. In PAL
awesome,
territories,
CRT.
we got the short end of the 50 hertz friggin' stick. And when I listen now when you listen to Sonic and 50 hertz, you're like, it hurts. That's what I had to do. But one thing that was better for us was I think about back to that I had no idea at the time. I played an Amiga, one of the most amazing systems with amazing pixel art, beautiful things. And it was all on a beautiful monitor like this, connected via RGB SCART. That was just the standard. So we were really looking at everything that we jerk off over today about being the most amazing shit ever. That's just what I had as a kid. And I didn't even know that it was a great thing. Whereas I think I was a little bit the consoles, they're nice, but what's up with them? I didn't understand that we were playing them in composite on a regular TV compared to my Amiga via SCART, RGBS on a nice monitor. And that's why, even though the Amiga really wasn't that much better at games than, say, a Genesis, it just looked so good. And that's exactly what you're seeing right there.
I mean, yeah, the crazy thing is that this is something that anybody could have had, even the nuts thing is nobody was doing any of this stuff. Nobody knew about this, or you could have had this set up in the early 90s with the Super Nintendo. If you knew about a SCART, you could have gotten SCART into this monitor if you had this Commodore 1084, and you could have been experiencing this. I mean, this is scan-lined to almost the point of a PVM, right? It is high resolution, beautiful. I was really, I really liked that. I mean, like I said, this is a recapped Super Famicom that I was feeding into it, but it's not got it's got the jail bar issues and everything else with it. It doesn't have that kit that's not available yet. So
the Voltar kit that's coming out, yes.
So it's, anyway, that was a really, let's see if you're going to, there we go. Let's go back to regular. And so that was a fun, easygoing CRT to work on. Usually with those PC ones, it takes an hour to just get inside of them safely sometimes, and it's a pain in the neck. But that one was highly recommended. That 1084, if you happen to come across one.
Oh, I would kill for such one of those old Commodore monitors. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And that's why, I was able to get that Trinitron for $45. It was on sale for at least a week. On sale for at least a week, and there was actually a bunch of people writing questions about it. Does it come with the remote? What are the inputs on the back? Da-da-da. Meaning everyone else around here didn't want to pay $45 for that. And I don't know why. I think I held out. I was a bit like, look, if no one else, look, I'm not going to jump on it. If no one else buys it, I will. And then I remembered, oh, you had that. And then I remembered how nice it looked when you saw it. And then, oh, that's right. She only, on the day I bought it, she added the picture that had the serial number. It didn't show the serial number. And then I saw that, and I saw it was a 14. And I don't think I've ever seen a 14-inch Trinitron come up here locally. You can still go buy a 29. There are still 20 inches available locally. Like right now on the marketplace, you can go get for whatever, $10, $20. I've got a stack in my storage room. I don't need any more 20-inch Trinitrons. I've already got the BVM, and I got about 3 more consumer sets in the storage room. But I cannot recall when the last time I saw a 14-inch came up, and I was like, okay, time to go. $45, but I've never spent $45 on a CRT before. Steve, what's the most you ever spent on any professional, whatever, any CRT?
I can't remember what maybe the most would have been. I mean, it would have been a lot of them. I don't generally spend a huge amount of money buying them myself.
You're very thrifty like that because you're able to find the good deals.
I do often like look around for them. I mean, so I have gotten. I had this 20-inch Sony that I worked on as FS120. I recapped it, did a video on it, and I had it listed for sale forever on the Patreon page. And I mean, it's hard to really make a lot of money or anything off of like something like that you put so much time into. So I wound up selling it to a Patreon member, and he traded 2 14-inch Toshibas that were AF, both do component video. One's like the 4.2, one's the 4.4 or something. I think those are the name. I can't remember the exact models. They're in next door. But so he traded 2 of those and then like $350 for the CRT.
2 monitors and the 350.
Yeah, for the fully restored with the remote, perfect condition Trinitron. And so that was I was given about $100 trade in for that 14-inch. That's like more than the thing is I do give people value for basically bringing it here and dropping it off to me. That's about the biggest issue. I can find them a lot for about that price you're talking about, but they're always too far away, and the distance is more of a hassle. That's what I was trying to look up here and see what was listed on the marketplace.
Yeah, so this one, it'll take, they said that takes a few days, but it should just be in my local, like 10 minutes to pick up whenever it comes back here. But also in the chat, tell us guys in the chat, what is the most expensive, what's the most you've ever spent on a CRT? Or let's say the most you've spent. You can also tell us about your story if you have to factor your time or your fuel as well. That's also, as Steve was saying, adds to the cost.
Right. Let's
of the
see
monitor.
We can find.
You brought that. I'm just gonna get some more water.
Sure. No, see, it's throwing me out in California. I don't know how that did that, but anyway, it's not. So, what do you guys think? What has been? Let's get over here on the chat screen and see. Whoops. 1084s are all over eBay. Yeah, and like, here's another thing. I actually tried out the capacitor kit from Console 5. That's what they got. The customer sent in with those. So that all went. Those console kits were pretty good. They were missing like 2 caps on each one, and it's probably just different variants. But
all right, we got a few people in the chat here. Yeah. $80 on 2 14-inch Sonys, 65. 34 XBR, okay, 250, yeah.
So it's and there's some people have paid thousands, I know, I won't,
No doubt.
They probably don't want to be named.
If I think about it, actually, when I got that 20-inch BVM, I think I got that 20-inch BVM, about 3 14-inch BVMs, and a bunch of other crap, and I think I slipped the guy $200. So yes, I paid $200, but it's hardly, a problem, right? So that was a bit more that their factory was going to throw him out, and the guy said, "Hey, you want to come down?" And it wasn't so much a sale as I slipped him some money, and he looked the other way as I got rid of them for him.
Yeah, that's always nice if you can find somebody. So, let's get rolling in here. Let's talk about like this other crazy repair, this like wild repair that I had to do on a 20-inch PVM here.
Let's go.
And I'm going to find some of the stuff on there about it, because it was, I'll be damned if it wasn't about the hardest repair I've done this year. So I got a PVM sent in here, and it's this month, like I think last month I walked through all this stuff. This month I had a couple weeks where I wasn't there in July, and so let's see what else I got done. So during like June, I did a ton of crap during June that I'm still going to be coming up with content on. The one was the Toshiba. I'm going to have a video about that RGB Mux mod on there. But the big repair that I just finished, I thought was going to be dead. Now, I didn't even know, like, I thought our show today was going to be watch Steve, like, bang his head against the wall, tell him to do anything on this PVM, and if you figure it out, you get the CRT bounty, which...
Oh, this is the one you showed with the too wide problem.
Right. So let's show that clip of what was going on here. I'll pull that up. So before I even got to that point, though, this was the story. This PVM, again, a guy from Patreon says he lives like 2 hours from here, so he's close, kind of local. And he scheduled a time to bring this in, and I was talking to him. He's like, I'm sure this thing works. It was just damaged in shipping, and the button was smashed, right? So again, we have a power button issue where the power button's not working. So I knew that, and he sent pictures of the rest of it, and it didn't look like anything else was really broken from those pictures. So I'm like, okay, it just broke the power button. If that's it, we could fix that pretty easily. I had actually a replacement from a salvage, and I said I could put that in. So I got the monitor here. I swapped out the power button. I got it working, but the screen wasn't working fully because I noticed that the button board, I should have right here. Let me grab it real quick. The button board wasn't working. Like, it was just push buttons, it wasn't doing stuff. So let me show you this.
Oh, Steve's gone off. So awesome stories of here. And look, if you've had to pay 700, like 400, 500, 600, 700, good on you. Like, if the set was right and it was beautiful and it was going to be, if I couldn't get anything else, I think I'd be there as well, paying a certain amount for a good set. Jason got that beautiful 20-inch A20F1U in Japan, 2015. We were already speaking about that. The whole pro monitor scene, not as much of a thing in Japan. Definitely back in 2015. So yeah, that would have been a nice one. So so I was just going here before you go on. Chris was talking about a hot chassis. Basically, the circuit isn't isolated from the wall power, so everything is. Yeah, what's
that happens. So there's like, if you notice, a lot of these things, like, they have isolation transformers for a reason. You're isolating the rest of the power, like the high voltage power, and you're not using high voltage run throughout the whole chassis, so there's not hot spots on there where it's running over voltage. You can isolate it yourself by using an isolation transformer in between the wall, and like that's why you use an external one, and you start using that for like scopes, to make adjustments in CRTs. It's much safer. It's kind of the reason I haven't gotten into that too much, but that's a whole different level of wow. Yeah, that's like I've got to buy they're about $100. I got to buy an isolation transformer to be able to do that. So back to this.
Yes, go
20M2. So I got the power on there, and it's not looking right. I can't get the screen. So I'm like, something's wrong with this. This is the power button that sits behind there. I'm like, this has got to be cracked too. Usually when it's shipping damage, it'll crack a trace or it'll crack this board. Because again, this is right next to the power button, which normally sits right here or right here, actually. So this is broken. You're like, well, something over here is broken. But I opened the PVM up. I started looking around inside, and I noticed this thing must have been like saved in like, I don't know, like by the beach or something, because there's like all rust had been developing inside of it. Like the shielding had rust all on it. And I was like, dadgummit. Well, I started looking at the board, and this is going to be more difficult to see through this little camera here. But let's go this way. There's actual rust where you can see the discoloration brown.
Yeah, you see a bit of that. Yeah.
So maybe that light will help a little more. So
I can see the spots on the leg.
Right?
Yep.
Like there's all this rusting going on all over this board. Like there's full resistors that are right here. Completely that's completely rusted out. So this board and all this stuff was completely rusted up. So I luckily had a different board like this. The only problem with that board is a couple of the buttons were just busted. So I took a couple of the good buttons from this board and transported them over there. So I got the button board working.
All right.
And so once I got the button board working, I got it all assembled back together. And then so now I can do the cap kit on it. So I was just laughing at this comment from I'm a Fatty Cat. Asked if I ever watched adult movies on CRT. What do you think? The first adult movie I can remember being exposed to the first adult film ever. I would have been 6th grade summer, wandering around with my best friend at these shady apartment buildings, like every kid does. Like they go over to the lower income shady apartment buildings, run around with their kids because there's no rules over there. Crazy shit happens. And there was one guy who was like in high school, 2 guys who were in high school. One was always known as being like a trouble, like don't stay away from that guy, right? So he was already cool. And the other guy he was hanging out with went to this Catholic school, so nobody really knew him. I didn't know him because he didn't go to the same schools. He went to the private Catholic school. Well, his parents were out of town, so everybody was at his apartment drinking Everclear, which is like straight 100% alcohol. It's like 95% alcohol, so you shouldn't really drink it, especially kids, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget, I walk in and the guy always got on his fucking CRT in the living room. This big Ron Jeremy, like hairy Ron Jeremy, laying it to this woman with the biggest bush I've ever. I mean, I would say this was the first bush I'd ever seen outside of a Playboy magazine on video format. And it just like, I was like immediately disgusted by like the vile of watching Ron Jeremy. And it's like 80s porn. It was just terrible. VHS tape, maxed out on, trying to hang out with these older kids. And so that would have been my first adult video.
Right, watching them, but that's what's interesting is that's for me too. That's watching it on a CRT back in the day. Have I ever, in modern times, on my retro set, watched porn? I don't think. The closest I came was actually last weekend, and I was fooling around. Yeah, fooling around on the Amiga Vision core. Amiga 500 core on the Mister, and I loaded up the old Strip Poker, which is a pixel art strip poker game that I used to watch when I think my mother wasn't watching, and it's the only nudie pictures that I had, so you'll take what you can get when you're a kid, right? So yes, that's the closest thing. Pixel art strip poker last weekend is the closest modern retro experience I've had.
Yeah, maybe like Plumbers Don't Wear Ties if you play that on a CRT nowadays. So you go, I can't remember. Now I want to talk about this porn subject more. I remember going to I remember being in, then fast forward to like ninth grade, and this was like the last era of this shop class, maybe. Like there was still this shop class program, and you would go out to different modules, and it was literally just cubicles. Some of them were so stupid. It would be like, early robotics, right? And it's an arm, and you have to figure out how to run the program to make the arm go pick up something, some robotic arm. And that was one of the cool ones. The other ones would be something really off the wall. And you'd spend a week working in that, or 3 days working in that cubicle at that topic, and then you'd move on. And that was the whole semester, doing that through like 30 topics. So everybody did a little bit of something. And one of them was the internet. And it was like so early internet. This is 1995 probably. And this is the schools hook up to the internet. And so like at this point there was no really like firewall or like protection. If you knew how to get something pulled up on a computer, you could get it pulled up on a computer in the school still. Like they didn't have security. They didn't even know what the hell you were doing. So I got in trouble so many times on those school computers. Golly, it started like right away. So this class, the guy, he was, God bless his soul, he's dead now, but this shop teacher, he would say, now, my challenge is for you to go find your school's webpage on the internet, and if you can pull that up, you get an A for your module. And so my buddy and I were like, man, screw this. We got to find some porn. We got to find some porn on this thing. So I remember we like logged into an AOL chat room, and that was the only way we knew at this time was how to get porns, was to get somebody to send you a MPEG or something, or JPEG, and then you download it and you'd wait for it to download. And we did that, dude, and we got one sent to us, and God knows what it really had attached to it, right? Probably got the biggest virus ever attached to the school, who knows. So we got it, and I'll never forget, like, we were sitting there watching the thing, and it was back when you had to like watch the shit download, and like the image would pop like slowly, like this, like feed down the screen. Yeah. But it was the school's internet, so it was going so slow, and it took like 45 minutes for us to get to like here. Like we were shitting bricks because the guy kept walking past, and we were trying to like screen the screen, and like, we got to get this to work. We got to get this to work. And I don't think we ever actually got any nudity on the screen. We literally had to close it out because the whole day was over of us just trying to do this. And so that was an experience on a school's downloading, porn in the 90s.
God damn. I think I would have got probably a few grainy 100 by 100 whatever pictures, maybe from BBS. Maybe anyone else on here is old enough to remember the BBS, the bulletin boards before the internet, where you dialed directly into some fucking random pedo's server. And none of us was some regular adjusted people. A whole bunch of weirdos connecting who had 14.4 modems, and maybe there was able to get a couple of pictures. My internet story is it must have been the last days of school, because I didn't give a fuck anymore. And like, usually I was a good kid, but clearly I'm doing this. I didn't give a hell. So it must have been the last few months. And I managed to get the school's dial-up internet password. There was one main computer, like at the back of the library. It was the router computer, and you had to log in, and everyone shared just its dial-up, or the like 3 rooms of computers off one dial-up. That worked well. And I guess I got into it, and I don't know if I used some program that helps you clear text, show password or something, and we got the password, or my buddy got it, like a guy that I knew got it, and then he gave it to me, and we're all just dialing into the school's account. And there was some shit when they eventually worked out like 3 people were dialing in at once, and the school got this big bill. And I feel like at some stage, like right near the end, what I did with this guy, he was like a year younger, and I ratted him out. But the way I did it was because I worked out how to send fake emails. Like it's not even that hard today, like to spoof the sender field. Yeah. And to spoof the, like, who it's coming from. So I made it look like it was coming from the school computer teacher, like his name and his email. And I wrote to this dude, and I was like, his name's Adrian. And I was like, "Hi, Adrian, I have noticed that you're using the school's account I'm disgusted by this. I want you to come and talk to me about this. And he fucking fell for it.
you poor Adrian, you hacked him into...
I thought it was so stupid he'd never believe it, and he fell for it. He got in trouble. And then it was like end of school, so I was out of there.
So he walks up and just self-rats himself out after school, wants to talk to the teacher. The teacher's like, what the hell are you even talking about? Oh, wait, I did hear somebody complaining about that in the last school board meeting.
And he still had a year to go where I graduated and I was out of town, so I'm a fucker, right?
Yeah, that's like, I got... when I was in high school, they had a typing class, and the first day I got in, and they had all these ancient, like iMacs or something for the typing class, and just to run word processor. And I think I did something like, I got into the word processor and I was looking around and I found the manual, the service manual for the... That's kind of funny that I did this back in 9th grade, not knowing how I'd be looking at service manuals of CRTs all the time. I pulled up the service manual for this computer built into the hard drive, and I was like fucking around with it, and I told it to print like 100 copies of the service manual to the main printer. And then I didn't do that till like the bell rang and I was leaving the class. So it just started printing as I walked out the door. So the teacher's like, what the hell is going on? Like looking at the printer, and I'm like, perfect. So I leave. Oh, the next day he's so pissed off because he never got it to stop printing. It printed the whole damn thing until he finally unplugged it. So it printed a couple hundred copies. Or a couple hundred pages, not copies, but pages. And he finally unplugged it, but they found out which computer it came from and when it started, and he knew it was me. And I'll never forget, dude, this guy, he got me good. He made me go back to one of the old typewriters that was like in the storage. He pulled a typewriter out, made me get a typewriter, and then he made it so it was literally just sentence typing for the whole classes the rest of the semester, and everybody else on the computers, he taught them how to use control copy and paste so they could write the idea was you had to write a sentence and then you'd have to write it 100 times. There was no copy and paste on the old ass typewriters, so it was made so that everybody could do that, and then they all got to play around and do whatever the hell they wanted the rest of the day after doing the 5-minute assignment. Well, I had to sit there, and everybody laughed, and I had to sit there and type the damn thing out by hand, and he just watched me every day for the rest of the semester. That was one of the worst things I'd ever done.
Was writing lines a punishment when you were a kid? Like you literally had to write out like, I won't do this again like 100 times or I don't know, 1,000 times. Yeah. Just
like in the Simpsons entrance.
Right. It sounds like a Simpsons meme now, but now I think about it, I had
to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's got to be other people here that had to do that. I had to do it on the chalkboard. Like,
yeah, on the chat. Did you have to write lines as a kid when you got in trouble?
Like, kids can't even write today. Like that. What? Like they couldn't do that. Could you? Like. All right. So I think we got off topic there. So anybody who wants to answer that question could do so in the chat. Let me show you the rest because this isn't even the best part about this repair, right? We didn't even look at the problem. Let me go find the 20 M2 problem. I'll pull up the video here for a second.
Well, there.
Let me turn the video off. Volume. No, let's go full. So
this is the stretch. Yeah.
I got it to this point that you're going to see right here on this video. You could tell.
Calling upon you.
You can tell here just from looking at it, the horizontal circuit is blown out. Just look at it, kind of. You can see where it should say game list. It looks like over scanned, and you see how the menu,
like it's widescreen, but it's not.
And you can almost see how the pin cushion is blown out, where it looks like it's bending on the sides of the image like this. Okay. So I tried just about everything I could think of with this. I did the cap kit. It didn't fix it. This was after I tried the cap kit. And so I was pretty desperate. And I put out that video right there, basically saying that I was going to put together a little bounty. If anybody could help me get this problem figured out, I'd, recompensate them. Because this was a client CRT, and I would put all this extra time, fixing this board, fixing the button board, cleaning it up, getting it working, and then doing the cap kit, and then to have this issue still was incredibly painful. So thankfully, I got a bunch of people trying to help out and send in some good information. And let me find the most helpful one here, because it was from Six Tanks, who basically won the bounty, I'm going to say. I told him he did. He sent me a thread where he had been working on a similar CRT. Let's see, puts it, and then so he posted this, shared this with me, and I'm going to show you this. This is an awesome one. So this is the same looking problem here, pretty much. If we go, maybe we can look at it closer. Except he's got squiggly lines in it. You see?
Okay. Yeah.
But do you see how he's got the same thing going on, where the horizontal circuit is basically blown out, and it's doing the same characteristics. So he's like, this is what, and he had to go through and do a lot of things to basically find out that it was the problem was in this pin circuit right here. And thankfully it already put all this work into it, and this was where my problem was. And then there's another circuit picture of it that actually was really helpful to this. This is where the so this is where he found the problem to be, over in this area of the board. That's what you're looking at back here. Like this Q503 is that transistor right there by his hand. He's checking C572 572 out, which is somewhere on down the line somewhere else, not on this picture of the graph. This is a little bit too close. Let's see if I can find. I want to find the other picture of it. I don't want to put anything, because he did send me some DMs with it, and I just don't want to make sure I put that. Okay. See, there's the circuit. So pull this bigger picture back up, because this is the important part. So the reason that was failing is there's a problem with the signal coming out of this pin cushion IC right here. And I'll show you where this is on the board in a second, but this is the schematic. And let me see if I can pull that up a little bit more on the stream for other people to see. That'll be more helpful.
Okay, yep.
And let me pull that all the way up. So this schematic, this IC right here is a surface mount IC. What ultimately caused the issue for him was the failure of C579 up the top here. See where this VCC signal?
Yep.
And that cap was dead. Well, that cap's part of the capacitor kit, so I knew that cap was changed on my board, but I knew there was an issue right there. Or that's what, I mean, I thought maybe there was an issue right there, even though I had done all, this was after I had given up. I basically quit because I couldn't figure out what was going on. After he sent me this, the first things I started to do was look at the circuit down in this area where it's going between this inductor, L509, barely see, and then it's coming from the signal coming out of that chip. And anyway, everything that's circled, I started testing all those with my testing tools. A lot of them were caps that are either chip or surface mount caps, and same thing with resistors. The only thing that weren't resistors were these Q503 and this L509. So I actually pulled those out of circuit and swapped them with a parts board that I knew was good. And I had no difference. And I even took readings so that I knew those basically weren't the problem. This is the pin out transistor, is that Q503 and that. So that was when I was ready to give up. I was like, at that point, sorry for the big shot of Lewis. Let me pull that back up for you so I could shrink down this video. So my thoughts at this point were, the problem has got to be this microcontroller board. Maybe it's shorted, right?
Okay.
That was my next thought. The little IC that's got the four, ins and
point
outs.
to it? Which one do you mean?
I'll point to it here. My worry was that this surface-mounted control board right here, this IC509, this board that's circled, the big board right there, I was afraid that was shorted somehow, like one of these had shorted to ground and fried the actual IC. And so I was like, that's when I said I was going to give up. I think that chip's bad, and I started looking at the chip. I'll show you a picture of it here. I started looking at that chip, and I was like, that chip's bad. I can't get that chip. Even if I could get it off the board, I wouldn't find a replacement for it, right? There's nowhere to find a replacement for that, and it's surface mounted, so it's not like I could scrap one easily from another machine or spare board. So let me show you. This is what that circuit looks like, or this is where that board is. I'm going to expand this picture. And I'm going to expand your picture again here. So I was like, well, there's got to be a problem with it. There's that chip right there on the screen, if you guys can see it.
Okay. The one that's like slightly under the orange thing.
Yes, it says LM358. That's the actual pin cushion controller IC right there. It's surface mounted, and it's mounted in a way where it's actually under that C579. That's the capacitor right there. See how it's mounted there? And so you can't even get to it really and test this IC without removing the cap. So that's what I did. I started to go back and think more about the problem that, sorry again about that. So I started to think more about the problem that Six Tanks had originally posted about his problem, and how his problem wound up being that dead capacitor. And I started to think, well, what if, like I told you guys earlier, this one had a lot of rust damage. So I started thinking, what if like something got in between that capacitor, even though it was a new capacitor that I changed? So what if debris got in there, blocked that trace? It's like a last ditch effort, right? What the heck? I'm going to pull that cap. I'm going to look at that chip. And if it's not it, then it's not it. Now, I have the picture here with the arrow, because that's what the problem was. I pulled the cap and I looked down and I started to look more, and I noticed that where that arrow is on the positive lead of that cap input. The trace was folded in a way where it wasn't actually, there's a single trace from that controller that wasn't getting continuity to the cap.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a second, that's the same trace that was broken because the cap was dead in Six Tank's problem that he posted about. Then I started to think, okay, I cleaned that trace up, and if I clean that trace up, then I can reflow solder, make sure the solder's good on there and connected to all that, and give it one last chance to see if that's actually going to fix it. And once I literally made a post saying I give up, I did that right after that, and that was the problem, was that little trace had become severed. And once I fixed that and put it back in, it worked right after that. So I finished all the adjustments, all the testing on it, and it's working perfectly now, and it's good to go. It's done, thank goodness. But
that's amazing.
It was.
So
I was ready to give up.
Jose was in the chat asking. So it's just that the rust had sort of just etched away at that trace, I guess, between the cap leg and the pin of the IC. Is that it? Like just that wasn't
the caps. Good. The caps weren't even in that bad a shape that I was pulled out of them, because I looked at them afterwards to see if any of them had even looked bad, and none of them were really that bad. It was literally. I started to think more. I was like, something's like that. We pretty much figured out that it had to be this pin cushion circuit, right? And I kept pulling the parts individually from the boards. I mean, I even had pictures of that I could show a little bit of them. Probably just pull them up on the phone here because I haven't posted them or anything. But I was pulling out all the components that were near the thing, testing them. I even pulled out and tested a bunch of possible surface mount capacitor, or the big chiclet capacitors. I was pulling those off the board, testing them. They were coming back good, and then I would just put them right back in. I did that with a bunch of those that had failed and caused similar problems people had. None of that was test failing. I pulled that IC that I told you on that transistor IC that I told you I found on that diagram. I pulled that and it was reading fine. I went through with my meter and I tested all the surface mount resistors and capacitors that were on that circuit, and it was all fine. It was not until I removed that capacitor, which again, I thought that was the one directly causing this issue for him. That was like, it's either got to be that capacitor or that chip itself is shorted. And like I said, if that chip was shorted, I probably wouldn't have been able to find a replacement to put on there. So
you put it back together and it was working.
I put it back on and it worked, and I was like, that's what it is. So literally that trace right there was controlling that one little bit. So, but the good thing is I'm actually happy about this, because now if I see that pincushion blown out thing that I posted about, if we see that any more on any of the 50 series or M series, we can go to that little section and you could try. Basically, there's 3 removable parts that you could try to remove and switch out, and it'll either fix your issue. I haven't ever seen that chip short out, thankfully, so hopefully that'll never happen. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest part about all this, is learning how to fix that one and where to go for that one problem.
That was just today, wasn't it? Didn't that just happen today? I saw you posting.
2 hours ago. Like,
dang, man, what relief.
Oh, I've been working on this thing for 3 days, and last night I went to bed finally at like 9 o'clock, or not 9. I mean, I stopped thinking about it, tried to at like 9, and I was like, this is driving me nuts. Because at the same time, it's like, you don't want to tell the client you got it like all the way down to like the finish line and you fell short. And it was pretty amazing. I could show you. Let me show you.
Have you got a picture of what it looks like now? Did you manage to get one?
I should have some pictures of that right now. So what I'll do is I'll post it, and then we'll wait for him to hit the.
The Twitter. Yep.
I'll just post it, and we'll go on the thread. But it was, I mean, it's like one of those things that you just don't want to give up on. And it's like, after you find it, now that I've fixed that and I learned it, if I see that problem, I'll be able to go directly to that spot on the board in the future and fix and like check that out. And I think that's probably the best thing about it.
And this is such a beautiful example of why do we pay professionals good money to do a good job? Why does this shit cost money? Because yes, next time Steve's going to fix it like that, but only because it was 3 days of utter frustration right now.
Yeah, and to think about, like, I mean, I was about to basically lose money. And it's so you're like questioning it. It starts to make you get super nervous, super like stressed out. It makes you question, like, should I really be doing this? If I'm getting into situations where I realize this, man, I'm like, I might be the perfect person for this, because I'm not like cocky where I don't think I know everything. I know that I'm like humbled by these machines constantly. And also that I'm very stubborn and I don't like to give up. And I basically do whatever I can to try to make sure it's like a battle. It's like, now it is personal. It's 196 cupcake. So
it's such a good point about your income as well. Like, if you didn't make this realization, that has a huge effect on your income. You would have, lost this job, or you got to pay less to, whatever, right? You don't get the payday you expect, let's say.
Right. No, I can't like charge the guy the full price for this. I was like, it's like, man, I can't even charge, like, I have to basically charge him the minimum deposit kind of thing. And, but then, but it's all good. It's like so good to be able to go through all that and then figure it out at the end, as opposed to having to deal with it. But, so, don't give up even after you give up. because that was it. I said I give up on this thing. I think it's that chip. I posted that, and so then that happened. Let me see. Those pictures should have posted by now.
Yeah, let's see those pics.
And, right, let's see. Okay, here we go. So pull those over. Bam, Lewis.
Look at that. Durr.
So yeah, let's go ahead and expand this a little bit, get it a little bit better. Just posted these fresh. And guys, if you want like more daily updates on the crazy stuff, you should go to X or Twitter and follow us so that you get like that's the most where the most content is always published is there.
Sure, on the
Just
Twitter. Look at
because
that. So there it is.
So there it is.
That's it. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
So there you go. That's like the classic shots there. So yeah, no problems anymore. That's what it looks like out the door, done, cleaned up, ready to
wrap it up, move on to the next job. I mean, we say everyone's in the chat, and I appreciate never give up, never surrender. Like true, but also Steve's a professional. At some stage, he's got to call it and be like, "Yo, I got to work on other things.
That's
Otherwise,
do
I work on this for 3 days, for 5 days, for 2 weeks, and still bang my head against the wall?"
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking. And then I was like, also, I can't, like, it's a big project when you take it apart stuff. I don't have the space to like just leave it in the shop and walk away too long from it. I need to get it moved out of the way so I could get started on the next one, because the next one I got is a doggone 2030, and I know it's got problems. It doesn't work either. But I don't know. I must love torturing myself.
Well, that you do, my friend. I think you do. Yeah, 96 cupcake. Yeah, buddy, we're just joking around. All good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love it.
Having fun. We're having some fun.
There we go. So, Delusional, good to see you, man. It's been a long time. And yeah, everybody, we're going to be, I mean, Lewis isn't going to be there, unfortunately, but we do have the great Retro World Expo coming.
I would love to. Yeah, I would. Unfortunately, I can't make it over in August. But yes, Retro, it's going to be huge. It's
going to be awesome, guys. I've got a class I'm going to be doing there, and it's like I'm not even fully sure what I'm going to do. It's going to be literally, I'm thinking about just taking a couple CRTs, a box of parts of CRTs, and spending an hour opening it up, messing around with it, talking about how it works, showing some things to be careful of. Really cool. Like chilled out. More of, audience gets to see things. I'll take some magnets and screw up some screens, use the wand, show some techniques. So
that's going to be dope. So a basic, like, here's the bits. Here's how you safely open it up.
Yeah,
here's the basic bits. Here's the basic things inside you want to be looking at. Nice.
And then we'll have the
Delusional's bringing some stuff. Delusional's bringing in some stuff to Retro World. Arcade games and monitors.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see if he wants to come and hang out and sit in on like the CRT panel with me too, because I mean, he'd be a great person to have to talk about the arcade side of things, because there's a huge following for arcade monitors. Obviously, to be CRTs, it's just as big of a struggle. And him and like Jose are the ones that work on those more than I do.
Right, so there's going to be a panel. Taco, what's a retro thing? Never heard of it.
We already had that conversation with Mike Chi. Where have you been?
What's that? Yeah.
That was like a year ago in the old bunker. We had that conversation.
Okay, so you're going to do a session on repairing CRTs, and there's going to be a CRT panel.
No, I mean, that's what I was going to say, is like this will all be part of the one thing. It's probably just the one panel. I just want to... Dell will be there. Dell saved me because he had parts that I didn't bring last year. So I'm going to bring some parts this year and help out, some tools. And
you're hanging out at Bob's booth, is that right?
I think they'll put us in the... I told him we could put us in the same booth. And we'll have, we're bringing the big 36-inch... Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Butt grabbing booth. Come by and grab some... No, this would be really chilled out, chance to work on CRTs and hang out in person.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool, man.
So that's coming up in about Not even like 6 weeks. So it's gonna be fun. I could actually book a rental car for that. So what do you got going on? What's going on in the world of Zeds that you want to talk about that's coming up?
I don't know, man. I might wrap up soon. Might wrap up and get some dinner soon, actually. It's getting kind of 9 o'clock here.
Oh, yeah. That's what
I haven't... what have I been doing? I've recently... what am I doing over here? Putting the Mister on the PVM, playing some light gun games, getting into the Amiga core on the Mister. So just the fact that I've got some time to play some games has been nice. And I've been playing Link's Awakening on the Switch, like the original one on the Game Boy emulator.
Okay.
And, because it's free if you got the online service, then you'd have to pay. If I was doing the 2000 and whatever, the new release, then I'd have to pay $50 for the game. So yeah, man, just playing that, just chilling out, just having a chill summer. So not much going on here. I'm good, baby.
That's good.
It's all good.
That's good. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on and hanging out today. And we'll definitely do it again. We'll do some more live shows.
Yeah, we just got to. I mean, it's been summer, right? So you were in Florida, and I had a bunch of work going on.
Sewer problems. Let's not go into that.
Sewer problems. So we can get some more dream stuff going on. Thanks everyone for hanging out here. We really appreciate it. We're happy to be back. Happy to talk to my buddy Steve. Happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, I promise we'll do it again.